What is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown to the Geekcast, and this is a very special edition of the Geekcast. Today, we're going to be reviewing Steven Spielberg's return to the director's chair, The Fabelmans. Joining me today is my buddy, your pal, Bryan Ortiz. What's going on, sir?
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Fantastic, fantastic. This was, like I mentioned, Steven Spielberg's return to the director's chair. He's not directed a ton of things since 2012, really. A handful of films since then. West Side Story that dropped last year. You and I were
Mm,
talking about Ready Player One that didn't come
right.
out. Well, it came out in 2018. So he doesn't do it very often. When he does, he steps it up big time. And this was a very unique, interesting, and dare I say, the most charming Steven Spielberg film that I've seen. Very contained story surrounding a family. I don't really think there's any need to say spoiler warning because there's not too much you can spoil here. It is a
No,
very sort of simple yet endearing story about a child's aspirations for film and the dynamic of his family.
I think that's dead on. Actually, the last couple of things that we've seen from him have been grand scale stuff, as per usual with him. Right? Sure, he's done his smaller stories, but this is the smallest contained story that I've seen in a very, very long time. And granted, I have not seen every single Spielberg in the last 10 years necessarily, but West Side Story, Ready Player
Yep.
One, and finally, this is him coming back to like his roots, which I think he's really good at, which is dialogue and character. And as a director, his play in composition and scene choreography is dynamic in this, and it shines like it used to back in the day when he was doing things like Jaws and stuff like that, where
Oh yeah.
big scenes were happening with multiple people inside of a frame and you could see everything, and it was very beautiful. I think this returns to that kind of forum for him. And you and I talked about this. I'm always a fan when big budget giant directors who are known for being huge proponents of blockbusters do something small, and they
Oh yeah.
focus their power on small stories to tell. And this is definitely a slice of life, small story, a character's journey, from being a child to loving film to trying to be in the industry as he grows up.
Let's talk about the parts of this film that really worked for us. And I think you and I are both going to agree that Michelle Williams shines once again. She eats up every second she's on the screen.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know why, but I feel like she's channeling a combination of Diane Wiest and Sally Field. Like there's this perfect
Oh,
middle ground that she's sort of hit for me, and either it's just the genuine motherly character that Sally Field always just nailed in her movies. Maybe it's the Bob and sort of the characters, either facial features or mannerisms that kind of remind me of Diane Wiest a little bit. But Michelle is incredible in this film. She's asked to do a lot of the emotional load. She's asked to carry a lot of the emotional load in this movie, and she's just incredible as always. If she gets some awards or at least some nominations, I wouldn't be surprised because I feel like in this film, she's just that good.
if the someone doesn't give this woman a nomination, I will flip a table because she really did. I think she was supported by a lot of amazing people in this movie. Um, I think her and Paul Dano were fantastic. And as I said in the theater, I I feel weird saying that I've grown up to the age where Paul Dano is playing dads now, and that is crazy because I'm like the Riddler, sure, I can accept that, but a full blown father who I really love his take and performance, and I think meshed well with her as well because they together they made a very electric and very chemically fueled couple that was really fun to watch. And the truth is, I feel like the story of the kid got pushed down because these actors were so good and their story was very interesting. And maybe that's part of the commentary, right? Maybe that's the kid like being a filmmaker and a camera, and his eyes are the lens. He's watching all of this, and we are seeing it through him. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's the problem: is we all walked in thinking that it was like, oh, it's story by the kid. No, I think it's the kid is the camera, and we are watching his world around him. And she, and Paul Dano, and what Judd Hirsch are
Judd
some of
Hirsch.
good. Oh my God, just all of them on screen, eating everything up, controlling the moment, carrying the weight, pushing the story, being dynamic, being the chemistry between everyone is phenomenal. The little girls, the children that were cast, everybody was just on fire for this one.
It's you use the word problem. I would use the word challenging.
All right,
What
yes, that's
is
better.
our well? I only mean to say we both had a challenge to understand what the main focus of this movie is,
That's
and
true.
there could be the idea that there is no focus. I use the phrase after the movie. It's a movie about nothing and everything, and don't expect plots. Don't expect antagonists. Don't expect um, long drawn out character arcs for a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah,
It's a lot about just life in general, and out of this situation, out of this scenario, these years that this family was going through, these peaks and valleys, um, this one character played by Gabriel Labelle, who is fantastic. A star is born, if you ask me. Um, he's carrying us along for this journey. It's a journey. It's a movie about a journey, and where he ends up, I think, is satisfying. But we're not meant to believe that. I don't know. There's any obstacles, maybe directly in his way. He's not trying to overcome something. I think he's just trying to get through something,
right.
and it's a beautiful story. Um, that's all I can really say about that. It's
You know,
so interesting and so different than anything else I've seen in a really long time.
I like there's so many aspects of this that are really well done, right? And there's some others that I am still trying to process and figure out and wonder if that's the fault of the story or the journey. I mean, as always, Spielberg is a master of controlling the camera and the movement and the pacing and everything like that. So that's not a problem because I was in it
Sure.
all the way. And I think the problem too that the trailer is very misleading. So anyone who wants to see this movie, don't pay attention to the trailer. Like go see this for Spielberg and the story that he's telling, which is the story of a child who is, growing up. We're seeing his slice of life. And again, I now that I've said it out loud, I really do think he's supposed to be like the lens that we're
Yeah.
viewing his family. And the background, he is becoming more and more interested in the story. And I think what Steven Spielberg does really well as someone who has dabbled a lot in filmmaking and in the film industry and growing up wanting to be a filmmaker, he does capture, especially in that first act when he's a child, that magic of wanting to be a filmmaker and the first time seeing an image on screen. And then when again, as he does in the movie, the kid goes and recreates it and then wants to film it and see it again and again and again. I did the same exact thing. I would see something on the screen, want to understand it, and then go do it and repeat it over and over and over again until I figured out how they did it on the screen. And that is a very true thing that happens. And I think Spielberg has that understanding because of his own background, and he captures it beautifully. The
Yeah.
imagery and the vision of wanting to be a filmmaker and Hollywood and the Tinseltown and the lights and all that kind of stuff is captured really well. But he
Yep.
also does part of the business, which is also very true. The ugly side of the business, the harshness of it. And as Judge Hirsch pointed out, there's like a difference. There's a battle between your art and your family, as he does in the thing. You just got to break it, as he does in the movie.
The
Art,
Wakanda
family,
Forever. Yeah.
break.
The
So
Wakanda
I think
Forever.
that's
Yeah.
really
We
good.
see Yeah, no, I agree. And Judd, I forgot he was in this. I was really
How
happily
dare you?
surprised when when we
First of all, we
saw
need to be
him.
happy that Judge Hirsch is still alive and still rocking
Yes,
in movies. Okay, this is the man
yes,
that started out in Taxi, and he's still working. Like, we all need to be very happy that Judge Hirsch is still alive and killing it
and
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 rocking it.
he hasn't changed a bit. He's still
Nope.
got the comedic timing, the attitude, everything. He's still killing it. I
That man
love
literally
him.
comes into the movie for one segment and then he's out for the rest. It's like a cameo. He does this amazing one-on-one scene with our protagonist. Tells the, I mean, and he really boils down the industry and what it means for sacrifice, like
Yeah,
so frighteningly well. Makes a huge impact, and he's like, "I'm Judge Hirsch. I'm out," and he gets in a taxi and drives off, and that's the last we see of that character.
yeah.
Good God.
How how fitting. Got into a taxi himself and took off.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Okay. I see what you did there, Spielberg.
Steven, yeah, Spielberg knows exactly what he's doing.
You son
Um,
of a.
I recommend this movie, but like Brian said, don't have any preconceived notions about what you're getting into. The trailer, I don't even want to say what it kind of showed me, but I went into this and it's a story about a journey. It's a story about life.
Yeah,
It's not your typical movie. You're not going to get a whole lot of what you're expecting, and maybe that's to challenge the audience. We are not challenged enough. We are um, too programmed on what to expect nowadays. I've talked to people about shows like She-Hulk, which challenged our programming and what we're expecting in shows.
yeah,
And when you
yeah.
can just go against the grain every now and then, it's fantastic and it's worth it. Check out this movie. The performances are stellar. It's so whimsical at times watching a child sort of learn his craft, learn the artistry on his own. Learning the most exciting parts to me were the cleverness and how he was able to make scenes in his own movies
Oh my God.
work.
That's so, and
Thinking out,
that's so real. That is so
yes,
real, man. I cannot stress how many times is growing up trying to figure shit out. Like, you were doing in-camera tricks, man. I did a scrolling text Star Wars style, but I didn't know how to do it. So I just cut out text on a string and like moved it past the camera when I was a kid because I didn't know how to do graphics. I mean, it's 100% true and very, very real to life.
there you go. Go check out the Fabelmans. It's dropping this weekend at a theater near you. Spielberg behind the camera. It's unlike anything we've gotten in a really long time, and I think he really took the time to um, work on the artistry, work on the vision, work on the presence of the picture, everything that was on the screen, and like we mentioned, it's supported by a stellar cast and a beautiful story about a family. Check it out. Coming soon to you, Brian. Thanks for sitting down and chatting with me, man.
Thank you, man. I always enjoy talking about a good movie from Spielberg.
Absolutely. For the Geekcast, my name is Ted, aka Steady. We'll see you next time.